Well, welcome back everyone to the new tutorial. Different tutorial this time. This is for setting up the simulator. Got the new Thrustmaster flight controls and Yoke, and had some trouble trying to configure and setting those up. So I managed to discover how to do that. So I'm just going to share that with you. Just one thing just to note just before we get into the video. Most of the stuff I used to control on here would be with the mouse. So as you come up to make any adjustments, get the hand there, then a right mouse click or left mouse click turns it clockwise, anti-clockwise. Same as if you move the auto brakes, left mouse click, right mouse click. And also with the setting of the altitude, the heading, just using right and left mouse clicks to make the settings. So with that in knowledge in mind, so if we bring up SPAD, so we'll look to first just to configure quickly the yoke, which is fairly straightforward. So as you can see on here, all the buttons and the axis are already there for you, and moving any of the flight controls. So if I just move the flight controls left and right, that one's the left, the x-axis for the ailerons, pitch, forwards and backwards. So start with the ailerons. So see which one it activates first of all, give it a wiggle, and then so select that, and then axis change ailerons. So you just would go into add event normally, but it's already in here now because I've set it. So I'll edit the event, select the addition. The action is that they're ailerons. The axis configuration, so here it's in its center point. So in the null point in the middle, you can just click set, and then you move the ailerons and hold them all the way to the left, and then that'll be full left. So hold it there and click set, it returns to 0, and then full back to the right hand side, and then that'll be full right, and click to set that, and that's as easy as that. So okay that. Normally you click over here then to save, just to make sure you save your configurations as you go. Same with the elevator, pitch, y axis here, so elevator, and you go through the same procedure. So that's pretty straightforward. Throttle quadrant, probably the biggest difficulty I had setting things up, and that's I've got PMDG 737, as you can see behind, and it was for setting up of these. So as you can see down on the Thrustmaster Quadrant, we've got a selector switch down here of IAS MAC, heading, track and altitude. So first bit to try and configure here was with the selector switch in IAS MAC, and then I wanted that to select the IAS MAC value on here. So obviously with this, the encoder set on here, you only want that change in MAC if the selector switch is in MAC, or you want it used to change heading when it's in heading, etc. Okay. So if you just toggle it off and just go to IAS MAC, you can just see that it's number 12 illuminates on here, and then the encoder, if you move it left, flashes 15, and if you move it clockwise, flashes 16. So these are the ones that you want to configure. So IAS MAC with number 12, and then we'll do one at a time. So we'll use 15, so that's the decrease value. So if you select 15, you can see that I've got a few selections here, because depending on which selector is associated with, it's which action it'll do. So set with 12, so MCP speed selector. So if I edit this event, so what I've got up here, the execute action if, and then this is where you add the condition, and then if I edit this just to show you, when you select, it shows you all the buttons that are on this quadrant itself. So button 12 we just decided was the IAS MAC, so we've selected that. So we've said when that, and then you've changed to equals, and then put the value 1 in here. So once it's selected, the system has a number 1 associated with it, and that says, right, so if this button 12 IAS MAC is on, and then you get an input from this one here, okay, which we said was number 15, then execute MCP speed selector, so edit this, and event MCP speed selector, okay, single click left mouse button, and that goes back to what I was saying earlier on. So if you're changing something up here, if you put the IAS MAC and then use the left mouse button, it turns it that way. So all you're saying here is every time you get an input from this on the selector, on that input, that will be effectively over the switch and pressing left on the selector. Okay, so back to this then. So we've said once we've got number 12 selected, so IAS MAC, and you get an input from here, the MCP speed selector, we want to effectively copy that we've put the mouse over the switch and press left, which will give you a decrement. Now if you put it clockwise, it flashes number 16, exactly the same scenario with here. So number 16, MCP speed selector, so I'll just select that. So you'd say add event, but I've already done it, so I'll just show you to edit the event, and we've got exactly the same here. So it's saying, well, have I got button 12, so have I got IAS MAC selected, so equals 1 in the same way as before. So there we've selected button 12 equals 1, so that input's true, and then send an action to be executed, edit action. So this time single click right mouse button, so it's as though you've hovered over it and you've clicked it with the right mouse button. I'm going to OK that. So it's as straightforward as that. So as you then move across the IAS selector to heading and track, you see that you get an input of number 13. So now number 13 heading and track. So now we've got the heading selector. So here, if I just edit this event, so now this is saying, well, if I've got button number 13, which is heading and track, equals 1, make sure you change that because it starts at 0, so make sure you change it to equals 1, and then the edit action. So here you've got MCP heading selector, effectively single click right mouse button, so it's like hovering over that, and that changes the heading. Follow the same procedure for button 15 and 16. So as you can see on here, 15 you have MCP heading selector, effectively the left mouse button, and then number 16 in here you'd have selected the right mouse click. Last but not least, cross to the altitude selector, so you can see we've got now number 14, and then obviously this is just a repeat of the last two steps. So just to make sure and show you, edit event. So this time we now need button 14 activated, and then that will give us a left or right mouse click. So just to minimize that at the moment, so just to demonstrate then, so here we are airborne, just at 6,000 feet, just following with LNAV engaged and just following the LNAV track towards BADIM. So I'm just going to pause that at the moment and just bring up SPAD. So I decided to add for the select switch to press the button whilst it's in heading track. So if I press it to see which button, so you can see there that was button number 17. So if you look at that here for heading select, I edit that event. So I've said, is the button, or is the selector switch button 13, which is in heading and track, and equals 1, don't forget to change that. Edit the action, MCP heading select switch, so the switch is the push button, single click left mouse button, so again it's just the same as hovering over the button and pressing it with the left mouse button, and that's what it'll do. So just close that down. So back in flight, so we're into LNAV to follow the track, and then press in head-in select, and press in the button engages head-in select, and the FMA changes head-in select. Okay, so put that back into LNAV. So some of the other buttons I decided to try and configure out here. Use them for what you like, but these two on here I thought for setting flaps increment and decrement. So just pause the flight a minute. So once again, selected the quadrant and just look for these buttons. So we'll do this one first. So pressing this button number 9. So I'm going to use that to increment flaps. So select number 9, add event. So as I've already done it, just edit the event. And there, send flaps increment event parameter. So collect that, edit the action. So flaps increment, that comes up on the big long list. Sim connect flaps increment. Okay for that. And that one's as simple as that. Just so then for decrement, so number 11, flaps decrement, add event. I'll just edit it. Flaps decrement, flaps decrease. Again, it's a sim connect value. Sim connect flaps decrease. Okay. 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 Don't forget, whenever you make changes, this goes red, so you can click that and select that to save. What else did I configure? So the buttons for the auto throttle disconnect. So that's number 2. So 2 events in here. So I've said button press for let's do the short time first. So just one little click, edit event, MCP arm switch event parameter 0. And for a long press, single click left mouse button as though I've clicked on it to engage. So once again, if I get rid of that, put the and click it. So here we've got auto throttles engaged. So if I press and hold the button, trips the auto throttle arm, and then if I just press it momentarily, so that's a way of using one button for 2 different actions, so you can arm and disarm the auto throttle. For the button on the other side, just pause that again. Number 3, I'd use for toga. So edit event, again just a straightforward edit action, PMDG event control stand toga, single click left mouse button, simple as that. And save. And that one's configured for that. IAS Mac, one further one on here with this button. So IAS Mac and head-in select. I put those 2 conditions, IAS Mac and a single press of head-in select, will put the airplane into level change. So just to look for a practical mode, so the flaps decrement, because I've got the speed up speed selected here, so I'll just decrease the flap settings to bring the flaps up. And rotate that just to bring the airspeed to 20 knots. So move it over to altitude. Let's do a climb. Select it to altitude. Take that up to 7,500 feet. back to IAS Mac. So I'm going to press select. There you go, level change engaged. MCP speed. On comes the thrust. Climb into its target altitude 7,500 feet. And there we go, we can configure any of the buttons to anything that we want. I think I've selected this one to approach, so I can press that to arm and disarm approach mode, and then obviously just need to label these things up. So the hardest thing was configuring this, so hopefully that's nice and straightforward, an easy way for you to copy and to get that working. With regards to any of the other buttons, you just follow the same sequence and attribute them to anything that you want on here. One of the easiest things, if I want to select something, I would have just pressed the left mouse button, so just use the same as the parameter in the SPADNeXT settings. Hope that's been a useful video. Hope that clears some of the stuff up. Any comments you want to make another video, then please put that in the comments, and see you on the next video.